I'm from the National Film Board. It's a venerable institution that's 70 years old, and we produce documentaries, interactive productions, and auteur animation. To say we're niche is a huge understatement. And about 4 years ago, pretty much everyone in Canada thought we were dead, or at least thought maybe we should be dead. And I'm here to tell you why we switched that around. And this year, we're recognized in Canada as one of the leaders in digital distribution and interactive productions. So it's been a really exciting 4 years, and I'm just going to quickly go through what we did to get from here to there, or from there to here, really. So in 2008, as most of our industry saw a real threat of the digital technology, at the NFB, as we were slightly disappearing from the landscape, we thought it was a really golden opportunity to connect with our audience. And that's really vital as a public producer, to have that direct connection with the audience. And we've seen it more and more. So we decided to dust off our old film archives and to go out and make them accessible to the world. We created NFB.ca, and we put, at the time, about 750 films, so not our archives, but actual films, some of them Oscar-winning. We have 12 Oscar wins in our vaults. So we created, in 2009, NFB.ca. The response in Canada and around the world was immediate, and it was very popular. So we made a few key decisions as we moved forward. A few of them were, it had to be a really rich viewing experience. We weren't creating a website. And we wanted to go global. I remember Gavin going, global, really? And free. We wanted it to be free, because we really wanted to build that audience. We felt that that was the essential component to start. And it had to be fiercely user-centric. And we kept going back to this. The NFB's audience was fairly old. We got people in school, and then we got them over 50. We were missing a really key demographic. So we wanted to make that slightly younger. But we had to make it user-centric and still honor our traditional audiences. And we would protect the NFB's valuable brand. We felt that in a congested digital marketplace, if we didn't protect our brand, we were going to disappear again in that market space. And we built it as an API, an infrastructure, so that we could build incrementally on it. And that's what we did. So in January, we released NFB.ca. In the fall, we reached our iPhone, quickly got into that younger demographic. All of a sudden, the NFB was cool, something we hadn't been in about 70 years, or ever, really. We actually were named the entertainment app by iTunes Canada for the year. And the first 3 weeks that we launched our iPhone app in the entertainment category, we were #1. The next 4 were porn. So forever in our history, we were allowed to go around going, the NFB is cooler than sex. I wish I had a print screen of it. I never got a print screen because it would be a huge poster. But at least for 3 weeks, we were better than sex. We quickly followed with our Android, our iPad, and in 2010, we went with the BlackBerry iPad, which was pre-installed. That was our first pre-installed app. And as we quickly saw our audience migrating, over 40% now of our audience is on all the mobile apps. And this year we launched our Samsung, LG, and soon to be released in Canada, Google TV app, all pre-installed on the programs to go to the connected television. And only the LG has been launched so far in Canada, and within a few weeks we had over 100,000 views right away. So clearly this is an area where we think there's going to be growth. But you can't all build these things. It doesn't mean just because they're there that people will come. So we had to focus on building the audience. Again, we're very, very niche, and so we felt that that was really key to do. And as much as the viral appeal of a kitten can still surprise us every time it happens on YouTube, for documentaries and auteur animation, we really knew we needed a systematic approach to do this. So we went with a few pieces that we thought we would move, and it had to be multifaceted, although frankly, luck is still a big part of it. So, of course, our first thing is curation. We now have over 2,500 films on our library, and even 2,500 films, it's still a lot. I don't know where to go when I get there, and so we needed to have a curated approach to get through those and to guide people. We had to have findability or discoverability, and for that, you have to optimize. We all know that. The SEO is really important, but every single piece of content has to be optimized too. So we really worked with an integrated approach between marketing, communications, and digital, and our social media network group to really work together to make sure that they were, because oddly enough, the communications and marketing can sometimes go at cross purposes and affect your findability. And we work with multipliers. There's a lot of hidden jewels that all the search engines in the world won't help. So we have multipliers that will work on 2 fronts, our NFB fan base, as well as subject-specific issues, and to get those through. And then we manage the interest. We really have to manage both the interest and also the data and the revenue from our users. Once you have that direct communication, you start talking to people, you have to listen to them. I know that sounds simple, but it's really key that you also manage their interests, and we curate from that, so it's a circle, and that data is a new oil. It was really true for us. We really had to make sure that that worked through. And so all that buyer information, we finally moved also, as you move through the entry point, people's interests move quickly. So we wanted to make sure they moved within the site to another project, to another film, not necessarily move out of our site. So we managed that very closely. And then finally, we integrate them to converting to revenue, which is what I'm going to talk about this year, to move the user from anonymous to registered, again, to finally a buyer. So over the last 12 months, to give you a sense of it, the sum of our digital access points everywhere we worked generated about 7 million views. Those aren't visits or page views, those are people proactively deciding to see a film. Over 32 million since we launched in 2008. And our mobile platform accounts, as I said, for over 40% of those views. And last year it was a 451% year-over-year increase. So we're really seeing that migration to the mobile tablets happen at a really extensive rate. But we need to generate some revenue. And so we started exploring new revenue streams this year. One thing we've noticed, two key components that we noticed really quickly on. Not all our content is of interest to our distributors, but all our content is of interest to our users. And our base wants to see a lot of content. So our first strategy was destination and syndication. We knew we just couldn't build NFB.ca. We had to move forward. And we had to have a digital boutique. So we also created transactional, download to own, and video on demand. Finally, we created an app for education with education functionalities for teachers. And finally, we looked at doing some apps. And two of these apps are really, we're moving into gamification with content. So traditional content with gamification. And Pickstop, this last one, which I took off the video to show you, is really interesting. It's a stop motion application app. So you can make your own film with stop motion. There's how-to videos on it, and you can upload it to YouTube and to Facebook, to any user-generated site you want. So it's a really way to show what quality filmmaking can be done. And one that will be launched this fall is taking the incredible homage of Norman McLaren, our founder of our animation studio, bringing his films and some of the documentary information about his animation, but adding in the gamification of creating your own techniques using the Norman McLaren apps. So that's some of the apps we're using, and these have all different monetized in-app purchase type of ways to test the business models also. And that's it. Thank you so much. Phew.
Thank you very much.
Over. Sorry about that, Gavin.
Come on here. Thank you very much, Deborah.
Oh, sorry. 70 years and 7 minutes. That's a bit of a challenge.
70 years and 70 minutes. I'm sure there's some questions. Are there some questions out here? I mean, the thing that's interesting about what you guys do is that you're a publicly funded organization, and yet you're moving down this road of generating revenue that helps your funding. So, you know, here in Europe, there's a lot of this happening. Are there any companies, or are there any government organizations that are doing the same sort of thing in Europe that you've seen that we could use as an example?
Well, there's not a lot of public organizations like the Film Board, really, that do the production like that. I think Ina, my colleague who just spoke before, Mikael, is doing it a bit, but more in the archive way. A little less in the actual entertainment-based films of animation. So when we started off in 2008, actually, we looked everywhere to try and find models to help us, and we realized there weren't that many, and we would just have to make our own mistakes and fall on our face and figure it out.
I want to talk data really quickly. So the data that you're getting back from all of these different platforms that you're out there talking about, what are you seeing? What are some of the interesting little tidbits, maybe the anomalies that you saw that changed direction or helped you pivot? Because I know early on you were a bit overwhelmed with the response. I mean, people really came to you guys and knew it. How did that affect your strategy moving forward?
Well, it certainly pushed us to go mobile really quickly. As soon as we saw NFB.ca's success, we said we got to get on the iPhone. That was really the only platform. So you were seeing a lot of
traffic to the website, and you were saying, you know what?
We got to go mobile. We got to get. Yeah, we thought, okay, we had, you know, you're egged on by success. I mean, we saw people going, and people were right away telling us how wonderful it was to have these films, new films and old films. It was really a cross section of films that we put in there. And a few things was interesting. One was that, you know, people tend to look at websites during their lunch hour at work, and we saw that traffic, but what we saw is that people would browse, see films or short films then, and then quickly started seeing people coming back at night and watching the long films, because we have films that are there over an hour. We have classic, older films. And people started seeing those.
So the short films were almost like a promo?
They're almost, although they were different films, we saw that during the day, the shorter films, but people were coming back during regular prime time, really, and watching feature films. And then we saw a bit of the mobile. And once we got the iPhone app, one of the things was we had only put a cache on it for 24 hours, so you could download to your phone for 24 hours. And I had this father call me, and The Cat Came Back is an iconic video. You should see it anyway. It won an Oscar for an animated film, and so the song Cat Came Back. This father finally reached out to me, and he said, I beg if you let me buy this film. I beg if you let me buy this film, because every day he downloaded it for the drive to daycare, and every day he went back. And 2 days he forgot to download it. He said they were hell. He said, I'll pay anything. And I remember we had a conversation, Gavin, once, and you went, why aren't you monetizing this faster? We actually didn't have the rights to monetize that film right away. So I sent him a DVD, and I said, stay tuned. But we quickly put it on 48 hours.
Right.
Just because, so if people were traveling or
So why
like
48 hours? Why not 36? Why 2 days instead of just one?
In one? Well, people had the 24, and they would say, we're going away for a weekend. What if we can put these on the cottage? We really like seeing them. So we really started seeing a lot of people wanting to do the mobile, and that helped us move forward. And then connected TV, we thought, well, we've got to go there and have some partners too.
Great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. A big round of applause for Deborah Drisdell.